We were just past the bakery when the car slowed. My son Thomas was driving. His sister Claire sat in the passenger seat. I thought maybe they were taking a different route. I even smiled a little, thought it might be a quiet gesture, something Jack would have hoped they'd do. But then Thomas pulled onto a gravel shoulder near the old cannery docks, cut the engine, and stepped out. No warning. No expression. He opened my door like a taxi driver and said flatly, "This is where you get off, Mom. The house and business are ours now." The wind caught my coat. My hand froze mid-air on the doorframe. Claire didn't even turn around. What did I just hear? Ours now? Did he just say that, like directions? Like reading a parking sign? I looked at his face. So familiar, so gone. Claire stared ahead like it wasn't happening. "My name is Marion Rose Mariner. I'm 68 years old." And that's the moment I realised. They hadn't just pushed me aside. They'd done it long ago. Today, they simply found the courage to say it out loud. Jack died on a Monday morning. It was sudden. A stroke. He'd been sanding the keel of a small skiff out back just the day before. Still strong, still stubborn. I found him slumped in the workshop chair, coffee gone cold beside him. His hands were still calloused, still stained with pine dust. We'd weathered every storm together. But this was the one I had to face alone. The service was held down by the shore. The townsfolk came, fishermen, retired boatmakers, old neighbours. People who knew Jack not by his name but by the feel of a well-built rudder. My kids, Thomas and Claire, stood politely and said all the right things. Thomas arrived from Seattle, briefcase in hand. He hugged me, gently, distantly. Claire followed, breezing in from San Diego like the wind that changes the tide. She brought flowers, the kind Jack was allergic to. But I said nothing. I thought the children would come back with hearts open, memories stirred by grief. To remember the man, not just the paperwork. After the last guest had gone and the chairs were folded, I sat alone at the head of the table. The teak had aged, just like us. Now, across from me, sat our children. Or what was left of them. Thomas looked at his watch. Claire was too composed, like someone preparing a pitch. Not mourning. Not even pretending anymore. She smiled. "Mum," she began softly, "we know this isn't easy, but we've been thinking about what comes next. For you." I didn't answer. I stared at the mug in my hands, lukewarm tea now, trying to remember when this house stopped feeling like mine. Claire slid a brochure across the table, Seabreeze Haven, all stock images of laughing seniors and ocean views. "It's beautiful," she said. "It's right on the coast. You'd have your own suite. Independence, but support too. They have a koi pond." A koi pond. For a moment, I wanted to believe them. Wanted to believe that this was love disguised as planning. That this offer came from care, not calculation. Part of me remembered Claire's childhood drawings on the walls of the boathouse, her giggle when Jack hoisted her up to steer. But that part was fading fast under the weight of their silence at the funeral, their crisp clothes, their timing. She continued, undeterred. "You wouldn't be alone. There's a garden club, book readings, people your age, people who've also moved on." Moved on. Like I was supposed to forget the scent of salt and varnish, the creak of wood under Jack's boots, the way he hummed when planing down cedar. "Why now?" I asked. Thomas exhaled. "Because it's time, for you to rest, and for the business to move forward." He opened a leather folder and placed a set of documents in front of me. "Dad signed this last December. It names Claire and me as primary successors. Transfer management. It's all above board." I looked down at the signature. It was too smooth, too stable. Jack hadn't held a pen properly in weeks by then. I remember guiding his hand just to write Christmas cards. "This signature," I said slowly. "He didn't write this." Claire leaned in. "Mom." "He did. He wanted to make sure we were prepared. He just didn't want to worry you." He never kept legal decisions from me, I replied, voice firmer now. He once made me initial a change in our will because he thought it was bad luck not to. Thomas's eyes flickered, hard to tell anymore. We consulted another firm, Thomas said. Harold's been your family lawyer forever, but he's out of step. We needed someone faster, someone who specializes in real estate. Harold Jennings has been our lawyer for 33 years, I said. He saw Jack through the sale of his father's boatyard, through the founding of this company, through our mortgage. He knows this family better than either of you does. Claire softened her expression, playing concerned. Mom, this isn't about the law. It's about you. You've worked enough. Don't you want to enjoy what's left? And in that moment, it hit me. You speak like I'm at the edge of something, some polite end. But I'm still here, still breathing, still know exactly where every creaking beam and rusted nail in this house lives. I'm not at the end. I'm just not included in your beginning. I looked at her then, not with anger, but with something clearer. Recognition. You think this is kindness, I said quietly, but it's closure. Yours, not mine. Thomas bristled. We're trying to help. No, I replied, calmer than I expected. You're trying to simplify the story, make it neat, profitable, quiet. But I am not a loose end to tie off. I am the beginning of all of this. I stood slowly, letting the legs of my chair scrape against the old floor. I'm not signing anything, I said, voice even. Not until Harold reads every page. Not until I understand what exactly it is you're trying to inherit. Claire opened her mouth to speak, but I raised a hand. Don't tell me it's love, not tonight. Love remembers the details. Love knows when hands shake. Love would have waited. And I left the room, and finally realized they were no longer my children in this conversation. They were strangers trying to take what they never helped build. That night, I couldn't sleep, so I went out to the boathouse. The night air bit through my robe, but I didn't feel it. Not really. My hands were warm from the tea I didn't drink. My chest was still cold from the words I couldn't forget. The shop smelled the same. Varnish, cedar, salt. Jack's skiff sat mid-frame, half-built. I pulled up his stool and sat where he used to, the wood groaning under my weight like it remembered. He had sat across from me not long before the end. Pale, quiet, but still Jack. If things ever turn sideways, he said, use the fallback. What fallback? I asked. The dock lot. We bought it in 82. It's in your name. I blinked. That strip near the inlet. He nodded. Zoned commercial. Last one left. No dock. No business without it. I hesitated. Why is it in my name? Because I trust you to know when it matters. I didn't answer. I just stared at the sawdust on his sleeves and tried not to cry. He must have seen it. He added quieter. They might not see this place the way we do, Ev, just in case. I tried to smile. They're our kids, Jack. They watched us build this. He looked away then. Not dismissive, not angry, just tired. I remembered how tired we both were once. Remember when Claire was 2 and Thomas kept hiding her pacifiers in the tackle box? He asked me once, a few weeks before he passed. I laughed. You were sanding the frame of the dawn light, and I was in the back room, wearing Claire on one hip, stirring stew with the other hand, and kicking Thomas's toys out of the way with my foot. We let him fall asleep on the couch most nights. No baths, no stories. Just survival, I said. That whole winter. Jack smiled, but there was something heavier behind it. We did what we had to. And now they want to hand me a brochure and call it care, I muttered to no one. I stood and walked to the tool cabinet, second drawer. Beneath tied charts and pencil stubs, the envelope was still there, labelled in my handwriting, sealed. I opened it slowly. The paper inside had yellowed, but the ink was sharp. The deed to the dock lot, my name. Full rights, untouched. I sat back down on the stool and held it in both hands. They don't even know, I whispered. Maybe they'd never wanted to know. They thought I was standing in their way. They didn't realize I was the one who laid the foundation. I folded the deed and tucked it into my coat pocket. I was ready now. Some things aren't meant to be handed down. They're meant to be held onto until the right moment to let them speak. Of all the things I feared after Jack died, I never expected to be abandoned by the very ones we raised. The morning was quiet. Thomas knocked on my door, not waiting for a response before pushing it open. "Get dressed. We've got a schedule to keep." No. "Good morning." No. "How are you?" Claire was downstairs, checking her phone, tapping her foot. "We're taking you to see Seabreeze," she said, voice light like nothing was wrong. "They've got a slot open for a private tour. Very exclusive." "You packed my things?" I asked. "Just a few basics. You can come back for the rest later." Later. The word hung in the air like a warning. I didn't argue. I followed them outside and climbed into the back seat. We drove past every corner of the life Jack and I had built, the bakery that stocked our holiday pies, the school where I read to children on Wednesdays, the harbour where he first taught Thomas to tie a cleat hitch. And then they missed the turn. "Seabreeze is the other way," I said. Thomas didn't reply. The road narrowed. Gravel crackled beneath the tyres. The wind picked up. The sea grew closer. When the car stopped, we were at a stretch of forgotten dock, cracked concrete, rusted rails, no boats in sight. I turned to Claire. She looked away. Thomas got out, opened my door, and said it, clean, emotionless. "This is where you get off, Mom." I stared at him. "What are you talking about?" "The house and business are ours now," he continued. "We don't need confusion." "You mean me?" I said. "You've done your part," Claire added, still not meeting my eyes. "But you're in the way now, of progress, of closure." "Closure," I repeated. "You think leaving your mother on a slab of concrete is closure?" "You're making this harder than it has to be," Thomas snapped. "No, I'm making you say it out loud," I said. "So go ahead, say it. Say what you really mean." He didn't. Coward. Claire opened the trunk and pulled out a small suitcase. "You'll be fine. There's a gas station 5 miles up. Someone will find you." "Someone," I said, "because it sure as hell won't be either of you." Thomas stepped back. His hands were already off me, off everything. "Don't make this ugly, Mom." I looked him in the eye. "You already did." They got in the car, drove away without another word, without a second glance. I stood there with the wind in my coat, the suitcase at my feet, and fire in my lungs. They thought they'd written me off, but I still had a path, and a reason to keep walking. The walk back into town was long. My coat flapped in the wind. The suitcase was dragged behind me like a broken promise. I passed old warehouses, the salt plant, the mural Jack and I helped paint in '92. Back when we believed legacy was something you handed down, not something you had to defend. I didn't stop at home. I went straight to Red Buoy Cafe, the only place in town where you could still pay in cash and call the owner by name. Ray was behind the counter. "Mrs. Mariner?" He blinked. "You all right? You look like someone who needs a phone," I said, "and a strong cup of black." He didn't ask for more, just pointed to the landline in the back office. I dialed Vincent from memory. His voice picked up on the second ring. "Naomi?" he asked, surprised. "I've been trying to reach you. I expected you at the will reading." "There was no will reading," I said. "There was a drop-off, with luggage." A pause. Then, "Tell me everything." I did. Quietly, calmly. No drama. Just the facts. When I finished, I unzipped my coat and pulled out the envelope. I laid it on the counter beside the coffee Ray had left. "This is the deed," I said. "Dock lot. Purchased in '82. In my name. Still active." Vincent didn't speak for a full 10 seconds. Then, "This deed changes everything." "The developer can't move forward without water access," I said. "That lot holds the only remaining commercial zoning for docking on the south edge." "And your children didn't disclose it?" he asked. "They didn't even know it existed." He exhaled slowly. And the documents they showed you? May I see them? I handed over the copies Claire had left on the kitchen table. He flipped through them, frowning. Signatures are too clean, and not witnessed by any registered party. There's no notary seal, no filing reference with probate court. Meaning? Meaning it's legally worthless, he said, and potentially criminal. He stood. First, I'm drafting a notice of incomplete ownership to the developer. That stops the deal immediately. Then I'm filing an emergency injunction with the district court to freeze all asset transfers until this is resolved. We'll also file a motion to authenticate the last valid will, the one I co-signed with Jack 2 years ago. And if they contest it, they'll lose, he said simply, especially once the court sees that key property was concealed and your children acted without full disclosure. Will this be public? I asked. Not yet, Vincent said. But when it is, it'll be clean, precise. You won't need to raise your voice. I nodded, finished my coffee. Then let's begin. I wasn't looking to win. I just didn't want to be forgotten in the story I helped build. The letter went out by noon. By sundown, the cracks had turned into a collapse. Vincent called me into his office just after lunch. He looked calm, but the speakerphone was already ringing. A woman answered. Sharp voice, tight timing. Mr. Hayes, we've reviewed the documents you sent. I'll be candid. This is a problem. It's not a problem, Vincent replied. It's a breach. Your clients were promised full operational access. That dock lot? Not theirs to promise. We were told the dock was part of the estate. Then you were misled. That lot was purchased in 1982, in Mrs. Mariner's name. Sole title. No liens. Still active. No development can touch the shoreline without her consent. The other end of the line went quiet. So, what exactly does that mean for us? Vincent didn't miss a beat. It means your project is dead in the water. Literally, you can't dock, can't dredge, can't submit coastal permit applications. You bought shoreline, but no ocean. Silence again. Tense. Then, I'll speak with my partners. You do that, Vincent said. Just know if you proceed, we'll pursue formal challenge, a zoning complaint, and potentially a claim for fraudulent misrepresentation against the sellers. The call ended 5 minutes later. Withdrawal confirmed. Vincent leaned back in his chair. That's the sound of leverage working. Not leverage, I said. Truth. By the next morning, the whispers had spread through Willow Shore like fog after a storm. Did you hear? Mary still owns the dock. Developer pulled out, no access, no deal. Jack planned it all along, didn't he? I walked into the bakery at 8 sharp. No fanfare. Just the usual line, the usual smell of cinnamon and black coffee. The young cashier glanced up, then offered my drink with both hands. On the house, Mrs. Mariner. Thank you, I said. And that was enough. I didn't need to be defended. I just needed to be seen for who I really am. I didn't go back to the old house, not because I couldn't, but because I no longer needed to. Instead, I rented a small apartment above the seamstress shop on Main Street. 2 windows, creaky floorboards, and a view of the harbour if I leaned out far enough. It was enough. I bought a rocking chair, planted 2 pots of rosemary, hang Jack's old tool belt on a nail by the window. Not as decoration, but as a reminder. On Wednesday evenings, I started holding classes in the back room of the community centre. Boat building basics. No power tools, just wood, hands, and patience. At first, it was just 2 boys from the high school, then an out-of-work mechanic, then a single mother with calloused fingers and a stubborn streak I liked immediately. You sure this isn't just men's work? She'd asked me once, grinning. Not if you've got hands and a reason, I said. We built model hulls, learned how to seal a frame, and how to trust the balance of curves and weight. I taught them what Jack had taught me. Not just how to build, but how to stay upright in water that never stops moving. A month later, I sat across from Vincent with a simple request. I want to donate access rights, I said. Not the land, just the water, to the Hazel Shore Fishermen's Cooperative, in trust, for the next generation. He raised an eyebrow. That's a generous move. It's not charity, I said. It's protection, for the kind of people who build things with their hands and don't have lawyers in the family. Vincent smiled. You're making it hard for your children to sell a story that you were just bitter. Good, I said. Let the facts do the talking. I didn't go back to the old house, I didn't need to. My new apartment was modest, a room above the seamstress's shop with uneven floors, salty air through the window, and the sound of gulls in the morning. But it was mine. And I chose it. Each day began with coffee on the balcony and the sight of boats bobbing in the harbour. Not yachts, but working boats. Boats with a purpose. Like the ones Jack and I used to build. Like the ones I would teach others to build now. The back room at the community centre smelled of sawdust again. We started with hand tools. Raw wood. Steady fingers. I taught them how to bend without breaking, how to sand with patience, how to trust the weight of a well-balanced keel. They came from everywhere. Women and men, young and old, tired and eager. Not looking for escape, but for skill. And maybe for a little proof that something made with your own hands could still hold steady in rough water. Some nights I stayed late cleaning varnish off the tables, watching them linger even after class ended. That was enough. Later I sat across from Vincent with a decision already made. I want to grant permanent access rights to the dock, I said. To the cooperative. Let them use the water, do not sell it. Don't fence it off. Use it, he nodded. You'll lose value on paper. I've already gained something better, I said. This isn't about value. It's about legacy that works. I didn't want applause. I didn't want revenge. I wanted peace that could float. And I built it, the way I had built everything else, with both hands, a quiet spine, and no need to ask permission. I didn't rebuild to prove anything. I rebuilt because I still could. And that was reason enough. So, that's how the story ends. If this made you think, or if you've lived through something similar, share your thoughts in the comments. Our channel is a space for sharing tales of the elderly and family revenge stories from people who have weathered life's storms. Subscribe to the channel for more, because sometimes the deepest form of revenge is simply living on your own terms.